Welcome back to Mind Paradox, the channel where psychology meets philosophy, and the human mind is our greatest mystery to explore. If you're thrilled by the thought of diving deep into the ideas of Carl Jung, Sigmund Freud, and the hidden forces that shape who we are, you're in the right place. Don't forget to subscribe, hit that notification bell, and join our growing community. Because only here do we uncover the paradoxes that lurk within every psyche. Today, we're uncovering something truly profound, the single most dangerous sign in a person, according to Carl Jung himself. But before we get into it, pause for a moment and ask yourself, what does danger mean to you? Physical violence, unstable behavior. Well, Jung invites us to look somewhere else, deeper, darker, and far more insidious, into the depths of our own unconscious. Carl Gustav Jung, a Swiss psychiatrist and pioneer of analytical psychology, revolutionized how we think about the mind. He didn't just treat symptoms, he insisted we explore the labyrinthine corridors of the unconscious, because in those shadows we often find the keys to healing or the roots of harm. Jung saw the psyche as a dynamic system made up of opposites, the persona and the shadow, thinking and feeling, extroversion and introversion, intuition and sensation. But among all these tensions and polarities, Jung identified something particularly perilous: the complete absence of self-awareness, the total blindness to one's inner darkness. It's the refusal to acknowledge that beneath our neatly polished exterior, there exists an iceberg of impulses, insecurities, and desires we would rather never see. The most terrifying thing is to accept oneself completely. Carl Jung. This quote cuts to the chase. Acceptance, radical, unflinching, sometimes. Horrifying may just be the most terrifying thing we ever do. Why? Because it forces us to confront the parts of ourselves we'd prefer to keep hidden. And in that confrontation, Jung says, true transformation begins. So what exactly is this dangerous sign? It isn't hatred. It isn't cruelty. It isn't violence. It's much subtler and therefore far more treacherous. The most dangerous person is one who is unconscious, someone who is entirely unaware of their shadow, the dark and hidden side of their own psyche. This isn't about ignorance of others. It's about ignorance of self. In Jungian terms, this dangerously unconscious person doesn't just have a shadow, they're ruled by it. Their unacknowledged tendencies leak out impulsively, projecting onto others in distorted ways: fear, prejudice, hatred, or moralizing fury. While they remain blissfully unaware of their own dark reflexes, let's define the shadow more thoroughly. The shadow is the part of the psyche that holds what we refuse to see. Our repressed thoughts, our dark desires, our instinctual drives, the story of who we don't want to be. But it's not just what's morally bad. Sometimes it's hidden potential creativity, ambition, sensuality, or greatness that doesn't fit our self-image. Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you will call it fate. Carl Jung. If we refuse to see that shadow, those unseen forces still run the show. They become fate, destiny, doom. Entire lives can be driven by impulses we don't even recognize as ours. People in this unconscious state often project their shadow outward. They despise that trait in others, never realizing it's a reflection they refuse to acknowledge within themselves. Examples of projection play out constantly. Think about someone who says, "I can't believe how greedy that person is." Maybe it's their own unexamined greed talking, or broad historical movements, raging against an enemy or scapegoating certain groups. Often involve collective projection. Shadow is like the iceberg underwater. But unlike an iceberg, most of us refuse to look beneath the surface. Why is this unconsciousness dangerous? When ignored, the shadow operates like a pressure cooker. Without awareness, it bursts, burying the person in irrational fears, emotional outbursts, self-sabotage, and inexplicable habits. Imagine someone who publicly preaches temperance, but privately indulges in excess. That dissonance creates internal chaos and often external havoc. Humans are hardwired to project. Those blind spots we refuse to acknowledge in ourselves often become the very traits we condemn in others. That friend who labels someone else as arrogant, maybe they're suppressing their own need for recognition. The person who decries intolerance, perhaps they're coding their own fear of the other. This kind of moral superiority is psychologically unsafe. It isolates and stigmatizes. It begins in the individual psyche, but it ripples outward. Extended over groups, communities, societies, nations, shadow denial is catastrophic. Entire cultures can descend into horror when they refuse to look inside. Think of mass scapegoating or wars fueled by hate, projected outward. Jung saw this dynamic in Nazi Germany and other mass movements, where collective shadow was split off and then unleashed destructively. Jung believed shadow denial severs us from wholeness. The persona, the mask we show the world, is a defense mechanism. But if the persona represses too much, we become inauthentic, spiritually fragmented. The refusal of inner integration keeps us locked in alienation from others and, devastatingly, from ourselves. Let's paint some real-world pictures. The moral crusader. Someone who loudly denounces cheating, yet secretly resents the person they call dishonest. Their public moralizing hides private insecurity and fear. The shadow that refuses to be named. The jealous partner. They're always flirting, what a flirt they say. Meanwhile, their own restless desire for attention is shadow projecting, the extremist group. A political faction accusing all outsiders of evil, while the group's own intolerant, violent impulses remain unseen. Collective shadow creates monsters. Even within families, a child criticized for anger, issues may grow up to be emotionally repressed, and then, as an adult, explode in bitterness. That bitterness wasn't foreign. It was the shadow speaking when the persona couldn't. Is this hopeless? Absolutely not. Jung's solution is consciousness. Shadow work, we pause and ask ourselves, what's under my rage, my contempt, my sudden jealousy? Why do I label that trait as other? When I point at them, what am I pointing from within? Active imagination, a technique Jung developed, dialoguing with inner figures in imagination. You can literally speak to your shadow. What do you want? Why are you here? This opens channels for integration. Dream analysis. Jung saw dreams as messages from the unconscious. A cinema, where the shadow often plays a leading role. Interpreting dreams opens up those hidden corners. Creative expression, art, music, writing. These allow shadow qualities to emerge and reshape the persona. Community and therapy integration often requires reflection, feedback, and sometimes guidance. From trusted friends, mentors, therapists, who can hold our shadow mirror until we are ready to see. The goal isn't perfection, it's wholeness. Jung said, wholeness embraces both light and dark. He called this process individuation, becoming the self you truly are. Not just the self you dress up for public appearances. Let's pause here. I invite you to do a brief thought experiment. Think of a trait in others that consistently annoys or repulses you. Why them not? You. Is it possible that you carry a version of that trait, only more hidden or disguised? What about a personal secret or fear? If others knew that might also be part of your shadow. Ask yourself, am I reacting from awareness or from projection? Shadow work doesn't mean wallowing in guilt. It's about recognizing patterns. You don't have to punish yourself. Just witness your shadow can include shameful impulses and your undiscovered potential. Raw talent, eroticism, creativity. Whatever you've stifled, integration doesn't mean indulging impulses. It means acknowledging them and bringing conscious choice. You might feel rage, but you can choose how it expresses. Verbally, silently, peacefully. As compassion, as boundary, as transformation. This is deep, lifelong work. It isn't easy. At times it stirs discomfort or fear, but Jung insisted, a life unlived is a tragedy. Shadow integration is how we live more fully. What do you gain from shadow work? Greater emotional regulation, fewer outbursts, more stability, more authentic relationships. When you're honest with yourself, people see you more clearly. Creative breakthroughs. Many artists and innovators credit breakthroughs to embracing their deeper impulses. Ethical clarity. Understanding your shadows helps you avoid hypocrisy. Inner freedom. You stop being driven by unconscious forces. You choose more. Let's come full circle. The most dangerous sign in a person, says Jung, is the person blind to their own shadow. That blindness is not a moral failing. It's a risk zone, a psychological entitlement. The threat isn't in what they show the world, it's in what they don't see. But here's the invitation. What if this danger is also your greatest opportunity? For growth, wisdom, empathy, and true power. Have you ever projected something onto someone, only to realize it was something within you? Have you ever had a dream or creative impulse that rattled your sense of who you thought you were? Share in the comments below. Let's hold space for each other. As we navigate our shadows and bring more of ourselves into the light. If this video resonated, please like, subscribe, and share it with someone ready for a deeper dive into their psyche. This is Mind Paradox, because the journey inward is often paradoxical, messy, beautiful, and always transformative. Until next time, stay curious, stay brave, and remember, don't just think outside the box. Understand why the box exists.